The HSS Thunderstorm moved through space like a shadow. No light showed on its black hull. No signals came from its communications array. To the eyes of the Zealith Empire, it did not exist at all. On the bridge of the great battleship, Admiral Tae Hwan Lee studied the star map. 5 small dots showed the position of the Zealith fleet. In the center was the largest dot, the Zealith flagship where Captain Do-hyun Kim was held prisoner. "How much longer until we reach them?" Admiral Lee asked. Ensign Subin Cho looked up from her control panel. She was young, with short black hair and serious eyes. 18 hours, sir. We are keeping our speed low to avoid detection." Lee nodded. Speed was not important now. Surprise was their weapon. The Zealith believed their sensors could detect any ship in space. They were wrong. Human technology had moved beyond what the aliens could imagine. "Any change in Captain Kim's signal?" Lee asked. "No, sir," Subin replied. "The beacon is still active. He's on the flagship, as we thought." At the weapons station, Lieutenant Hana Kim worked quietly. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands moved quickly over the controls. She was preparing the ship's weapons. She was also thinking about her husband, Do-hyun, the prisoner on the alien ship. "Lieutenant Kim," Admiral Lee said softly, "your husband is still alive. That's what matters. We'll get him back." Hana nodded without looking up. "Yes, sir. All weapons will be ready when we arrive." On the Zealith flagship, Do-hyun was being moved to a new cell. This one had light. It had a bed. It even had a window to see space outside. The better treatment made Do-hyun suspicious. "Why am I here?" he asked the guard. The Zealith guard, taller than any human, looked down at him. "Commander Tal wants you healthy for the celebration. The minister is coming. He wants to see a human." Do-hyun understood now. He was to be shown off like an animal in a zoo. That was fine. It meant they would keep him alive a little longer. From his window, Do-hyun could see other Zealith ships gathering. They were preparing for something big. An attack on human space, he guessed. But they did not know what waited for them there. The door to his cell opened and a servant entered with food. It was Ji-young again, still disguised as a Zealith worker. She kept her head down as she placed the tray on a small table. "Eat well," she said loudly. Then she whispered, "Tomorrow. Be ready." Do-hyun gave no sign that he had heard anything special. He just took the food and began to eat. The guard at the door paid no attention to servant talk. When the guard looked away, Ji-young pressed something small into Do-hyun's hand. It was a tiny device, no bigger than a fingernail. Do-hyun slipped it into his mouth under his tongue. After Ji-young left, Do-hyun examined the device when the guard wasn't looking. It was a small communicator, very advanced, very human. Now he could hear what was happening. That night, as the Zealith ship's lights dimmed to simulate night, Do-hyun put the communicator in his ear. A voice spoke softly. "Captain Kim, this is Lieutenant Park. Can you hear me?" "Yes," Do-hyun whispered. "What's happening?" "The HSS Thunderstorm is coming," Ji-young said. "Admiral Lee himself. They'll be here tomorrow during the celebration when the minister arrives." Do-hyun felt a surge of hope. The Thunderstorm was the most advanced ship in the human fleet. If any ship could rescue him from the heart of the Zealith fleet, it was the Thunderstorm. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "Stay alive," Ji-young said. "Be ready to move when the time comes. I'm working on the ship's systems. When our friends arrive, the Zealith will find their weapons and shields don't work as well as they should." Do-hyun smiled in the darkness. Ji-young was the best technical expert in the special forces. If anyone could sabotage an alien ship from the inside, it was her. "How did you get on board?" he asked. "I was here before you came," Ji-young explained. "This mission has been planned for months. When your ship was attacked, I was already in place. The body they found was a clone designed to fool them into thinking I died in the attack." "Clever," Do-hyun said. "Human clever," Ji-young replied. "The Zealith don't think we're smart enough for tricks like this. That's why they'll lose." The next morning, the Zealith ship was busy with activity. Do-hyun could hear many footsteps in the corridors outside his cell. Voices called orders. The celebration for the minister was being prepared. 2 guards came to take Do-hyun from his cell. They gave him new clothes to wear. Not a uniform, but not rags either. They wanted him to look like a proper prisoner for the minister's inspection. "You are honored, human," one guard told him. "Minister Vex rarely looks at lesser species. You will be the first human he has seen in person." "I'll try to make a good impression," Do-hyun said. The guard didn't understand his joke. They took him to a large room with many Zealith officers. At the front of the room was a raised platform with a special chair. The minister's throne, Do-hyun guessed. Commander Tal was there, wearing his best uniform. When he saw Do-hyun, he walked over. "Remember, human," Tal said quietly. "One wrong move and you die. The minister wants to see you alive, but he doesn't need you alive for long." Do-hyun nodded. "I understand." "Good," Tal said. "The minister's ship will dock soon. Then our victory celebration begins. After that, we launch our attack on human space." Do-hyun was positioned near the wall with guards on either side of him. From there he could watch everything, and everyone could see him, the human prisoner. Far away, but getting closer by the minute, the HSS Thunderstorm continued its silent approach. On the bridge, Admiral Lee received new information. "Sir," Subin reported, "we're picking up a lot of communication from the Zenith fleet. It seems some important person has arrived. They're having some kind of celebration. Can we use this?" Lee asked. "Yes, sir," Subin said. "Their attention will be focused on the celebration. Their sensors won't be watched as carefully." Lee nodded. "Good. That gives us an advantage." He turned to Hana. "Lieutenant Kim, prepare a special targeting sequence. When we decloak, I want their communication arrays hit first, then their weapon systems." "Yes, sir," Hana said. Her fingers moved quickly over her console. "Targeting sequence ready." "All departments," Lee announced to the ship. "Prepare for combat operations. We will reach the Zelith fleet in 1 hour. Our mission is to rescue Captain Kim and show the Zelith that humanity is not to be underestimated." Throughout the thunderstorm, men and women prepared for battle. They checked weapons, secured equipment, and moved to their stations. Unlike the Zelith, who believed humans were weak and disorganized, the crew of the Thunderstorm worked with perfect coordination. On the Zelith flagship, a new ship had docked. It was smaller than the warships but more ornate. It carried Minister Vex, a high-ranking official of the Zelith Empire. Do-hyun watched as the minister entered the celebration room. Vex was older than Commander Tal, with paler green skin and more elaborate clothes. His head spikes were longer and decorated with metal rings. He moved slowly with the confidence of someone used to being obeyed. All the Zelith officers bowed as Vex took his seat on the raised platform. Commander Tal stepped forward. "Great Minister," Tal said, his voice loud for all to hear. "We welcome you to our humble ship. Our fleet is ready for the attack on human space." "Victory is certain," Minister Vex nodded. "Show me the human," he ordered. Do-hyun was pushed forward by the guards. He stood before Minister Vex, keeping his face neutral. He would not show fear. He would not show anger. He would show nothing that could give away his thoughts. "So this is a human," Vex said, looking at Do-hyun like he was examining an insect. "Smaller than I expected. Softer. How do such creatures think they can stand against the might of the Zelith Empire?" The room filled with the laughter of Zelith officers. Do-hyun said nothing. "Does it speak?" Vex asked Tal. "It does, Great Minister," Tal replied. "But it says little. Just its name and rank." "Make it speak," Vex ordered. Tal turned to Do-hyun. "You heard the minister? Tell him who you are." Do-hyun looked directly at Vex. "I am Captain Do-hyun Kim, Special Forces, Earth Command." "And what does Earth Command think of our coming invasion?" "Captain Kim," Vex asked, his voice mocking. "Earth Command is prepared for the Zelith," Do-hyun said simply. This made the Zelith laugh again. They could not imagine that humans might be ready for them. They could not imagine that humans might be stronger than they appeared. "Your confidence is amusing, human," Vex said. "But soon your worlds will burn. Your people will serve the Zelith or die. This is the way of the galaxy. The strong rule, the weak serve." As Vex spoke, Do-hyun noticed something strange. The lights in the room flickered slightly. Just for a second. No one else seemed to notice. But Do-hyun knew what it meant. Ji-young was at work, sabotaging the ship's systems. Then his small communicator buzzed in his ear. Ji-young's voice whispered, "Get ready." "They're here." Do-hyun's heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. He needed to be ready to move when the moment came. But he also needed to keep the Zelith distracted. "You're right about one thing, Minister," Do-hyun said loudly. All eyes turned to him, surprised that the quiet prisoner was speaking without being ordered to. "Oh?" Vex leaned forward. "And what is that, human?" "The strong do rule," Do-hyun said. "But you've made a mistake about who is strong and who is weak." As he spoke, the lights flickered again. This time everyone noticed. Commander Tal looked concerned. What has happened? The aliens thought the human was just a prisoner. Then the battleship spoke his name and opened fire. Do Hyun Kim woke up in darkness. His head hurt. His body felt cold. He tried to move his hands, but they were tied behind his back. He tried to move his feet, but they were tied too. He was a prisoner. Slowly, his eyes got used to the dark. He was in a small room with metal walls. The air smelled strange. It was not Earth air. He remembered now. His ship, the attack. The aliens. He was Captain Do Hyun Kim of Earth Special Forces. He had been on a secret mission near the border of human space. The Zealith Empire had been getting too close to human colonies. Do Hyun was sent to watch them, to learn their plans. But something had gone wrong. The door to his cell opened with a hiss. Bright light poured in. Do Hyun closed his eyes against the sudden brightness. When he opened them again, he saw a tall figure standing in the doorway. It was not human. Commander Tal of the Zealith Empire looked down at the human. Tal's skin was green and scaly like a reptile. His eyes were yellow with black slits. He had no hair, just small spikes on his head. He wore a black uniform with many badges. So you are awake, human, Tal said. His voice was deep and raspy. Good. We have many questions for you. 2 guards came in and pulled Do Hyun to his feet. They were like Tal, but smaller. Do Hyun did not fight them, not yet. First, he needed to know where he was and what they knew. They took him to a bigger room. It had a metal table and chairs. They tied him to one of the chairs. Commander Tal sat across from him. Your ship was very small and weak, Tal said. Is this the best humans can make? We destroyed it with 1 shot. Do Hyun said nothing. He knew the truth. His ship was just a scout vessel, not a warship. The real human fleet was much stronger than the Zealith thought. But it was better if they did not know that. Where are the human defense stations? Tal asked. How many ships do you have? Tell us and we will make your death quick. Do Hyun looked at Tal's yellow eyes. I am Captain Do Hyun Kim, Special Forces Earth Command. That is all I will say. Tal hit the table with his fist. You will talk, human. The Zealith Empire is the strongest power in the galaxy. Your people are weak. They will fall to us easily. For the next few hours they asked him many questions. Sometimes they hurt him, but Do Hyun said nothing more than his name and rank. This made Tal very angry. Finally, Tal stood up. Take him back to his cell. No food today. Maybe hunger will make him talk tomorrow. The guards took Do Hyun back to the dark cell. When they left, he tested his bonds again. They were strong, but not perfect. With time, he might be able to break free. But not yet. First, he needed to learn more. In his cell, Do Hyun thought about his training. He had a small device in his blood. It was a beacon put there by Earth Command. If he could turn it on, his people might find him. The beacon was activated by a special movement of his jaw muscles. He started the sequence. On another part of the ship, Lieutenant Ji Young Park worked quietly. The Zealith thought she was dead. Her body had been found in the wreckage of Do Hyun's ship. But that was not Ji Young. That was a clone body designed to fool the aliens. The real Ji Young had been hiding on the Zealith ship for weeks, disguised as a worker. Ji Young had dark hair cut short and wore the gray clothes of Zealith servants. She kept her head down as she cleaned the ship's floors. No one paid attention to servants. This let her move around and learn secrets. She had heard about the captured human. She needed to find out if it was her captain. Their mission was too important to fail. The next day, Do Hyun was taken to see Commander Tal again. This time, they were on the ship's main bridge. It was a large room with many screens and control panels. Through a big window, Do Hyun could see space and other Zealith ships. Look, human, Tal said, pointing to the ships. This is just a small part of our fleet. We have hundreds more. Soon we will attack your worlds. Your people will serve us or die. Do Hyun counted the ships he could see. There were about 20. Big, but not as big as Earth's battleships. Their weapons looked strong, but old. Do Hyun knew human ships had better technology. But he kept his face blank like he was scared. Your silence does not matter, Tal said. We have learned much about humans already. Your worlds are divided. Your weapons are simple. You will be easy to conquer. Do Hyun almost smiled. The Zealith were wrong. Human worlds were united now after the last war, and their weapons were far from simple. But it was good that the Zealith thought so. I have decided, Tal said to his officers. We will take this human to the victory celebration. The minister is coming to see our fleet before the big attack. He will want to see a human prisoner. This was good news for Do-hyun. A celebration meant confusion. Maybe a chance to escape, or at least to learn more about their attack plans. They took him back to his cell. A few hours later, a servant came with food. It was the first food they had given him. The servant kept their head down, but as they set down the tray, they whispered, "Captain Kim?" Do-hyun looked up in surprise. The servant raised their eyes for a moment. It was Ji-young. "Quiet," she whispered. "They are listening. Eat the food. The bread has a message inside." She left quickly. Do-hyun waited until the guards were not looking, then broke open the bread. Inside was a tiny piece of paper. On it was written, "Beacon active. Friends coming. Be ready in 2 days." Do-hyun ate the paper with the bread. His heart felt lighter. Earth Command had received his signal. Help was coming. But what kind of help? The Zenith ship was big with many guards. That night, as Do-hyun tried to sleep on the hard floor of his cell, he heard the guards talking outside. "The human is so weak," one said. "Their bones break easily. Their skin tears. They are not fit to fight us. The minister wants to study them before we kill them all," the other guard said. "He thinks some might be good for work in the mines." Do-hyun closed his eyes. Let them think humans were weak. Soon, they would learn the truth. Far away, beyond the reach of Zenith sensors, the human battleship HSS Thunderstorm moved silently through space. It was huge, black, and invisible to most scanning systems. On its bridge, Admiral Tae-hwan Lee looked at a small blinking light on his screen. "Signal confirmed," said Ensign Subin Cho, the ship's communications officer. "It's Captain Kim's beacon. He's alive on the Zenith flagship." Admiral Lee nodded. He was an older man with gray in his black hair. His face was stern, but his eyes showed relief. "Good work, Ensign. Now we know where to find him." "The Zenith don't know we can track them," Subin said. "Their technology is not as advanced as they think." "That's their mistake," Lee said. "They see our public ships, our trade vessels, and think that's all we have." He looked at the tactical display. "They have no idea what's coming for them." Around him, the crew of the Thunderstorm worked quietly. The ship was the pride of Earth's secret fleet. It had weapons that could cut through Zenith shields like paper. It had engines that moved it faster than any Zenith ship, and it had stealth systems that made it invisible until it was ready to be seen. "Set course for the Zenith flagship," Admiral Lee ordered. "Slow approach. Maximum stealth. We'll arrive in 2 days." "What about Captain Kim, sir?" asked Hana Kim, the weapons officer. She was also Do-hyun's wife. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped her console tightly. "We'll get him back, Lieutenant," Lee promised. "And then we'll show the Zenith what happens when they threaten human worlds." As the Thunderstorm moved through space toward the Zenith fleet, Do-hyun Kim lay in his dark cell, planning. 2 days, he had to stay alive for 2 days. Then something would happen. Something the Zenith were not ready for. Commander Tal thought he had captured a simple human, a weak creature who would give up Earth's secrets. He was wrong. Do-hyun smiled in the darkness. The Zenith would learn soon. They would learn that humans were not weak, and by then it would be too late for them. The celebration on the Zenith flagship continued despite the flickering lights. Minister Vek sat on his raised platform, watching the entertainment. Zenith dancers moved in complex patterns while musicians played strange instruments. The sounds they made were harsh to human ears, but the Zenith seemed to enjoy them. Do-hyun stood against the wall, still guarded by 2 Zenith soldiers. He appeared calm, but his mind was racing. The HSS Thunderstorm was close. Ji-young had confirmed it. Soon, everything would change. Commander Tal approached Minister Vex and bowed low. "Great Minister, may I present our battle plans for the invasion of human space?" Vex nodded. "Show me how these weak creatures will fall to our might." Tal pressed a button on his wrist device. A large hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed star systems, planets, and the planned movements of the Zenith fleet. "We have identified the main human worlds," Tal explained, pointing to several planets on the map. "Their defenses are basic. Their ships are few and poorly armed. We will strike here first at their outer colonies. Then we will push toward their homeworld, this planet they call Earth." Do-hyun watched carefully. The Zenith map was wrong. It showed only a fraction of human colonies and none of the main defense stations. Their intelligence was bad, which was good for humanity. "How many ships will the humans send against us?" Vex asked. "Based on our intelligence, they have perhaps 50 warships total," Tal said confidently. Most are small and outdated. Nothing that can stand against our fleet. Do-hyun almost smiled. Earth Command had over 300 warships, many larger and more advanced than anything the Zenith had. And the Thunderstorm was the best of them all. And what of their weapons? Vex asked. Simple energy beams and projectiles, Tal said. Their shields are weak. Their fastest ships are slower than our slowest. Every word Tal spoke was wrong. Human ships had weapons that could cut through Zealith shields like they were paper. Human engines could push ships to speeds the Zealith could not imagine. But the aliens did not know this. They had only seen Earth's civilian ships and a few old military vessels that patrolled the borders. As Tal continued explaining the invasion plan, Do-hyun noticed Ji-young enter the room. She was still disguised as a servant, carrying drinks for the officers. No one paid attention to her. Servants were invisible to the Zealith elite. Ji-young moved around the room offering drinks. When she passed near Do-hyun, she whispered without looking at him, 10 minutes. 10 minutes until the thunderstorm arrived. 10 minutes until everything changed. Do-hyun needed to be ready. He looked around the room, planning his moves. The main doors were guarded. The side exits too. But there was a service door near the back where servants came and went. That might be his best escape route. Minister Vex was speaking now. Your plan is good, Commander Tal. The human worlds will make a fine addition to the Empire. Their people will serve us well in the mines and factories. Yes, Great Minister, Tal agreed. And their resources will fuel our next expansion. What about this one? Vex asked, pointing at Do-hyun. What have you learned from it? Little, Great Minister, Tal admitted. It refuses to share information about human defenses or strategies. It only repeats its name and rank. Bring it closer, Vex ordered. I wish to question it myself. The guards pushed Do-hyun forward until he stood before Minister Vex. Up close, Do-hyun could see that Vex's scales were duller than the younger Zealith. His yellow eyes were clouded with age. Human, Vex said. Your stubbornness is pointless. Your worlds will fall. Your people will serve the Zealith Empire. Tell us what we wish to know and you may be given a comfortable position in the new order. Do-hyun looked at the Zealith leader. I am Captain Do-hyun Kim, Special Forces, Earth Command. Vex's face twisted in anger. You test my patience, human. Do you not understand your situation? You are alone. Your people do not know where you are. No help is coming. Do-hyun said nothing. He didn't need to. The truth would show itself soon enough. Vex turned to Commander Tal. After the celebration, take this human to the interrogation chamber. Use the pain devices. Break its will. I want information before we begin the invasion. Yes, Great Minister, Tal said with a bow. Do-hyun remained calm. There would be no interrogation chamber. The thunderstorm would arrive before that could happen. As if on cue, the lights flickered again. This time they stayed off for several seconds before coming back on. Murmurs of concern spread through the crowd of officers. Commander, a Zealith officer called from the doorway. We are experiencing system failures across the ship. Communications are unstable. Sensors are giving strange readings. Tal looked alarmed. Check all systems. Increase security. This should not be happening. The officer hurried away. Tal turned to Vex. A minor technical problem, Great Minister. Nothing to worry about, but it was something to worry about. Ji-young had done her work well. The ship's systems were compromised. And now, as Do-hyun watched the confused Zealith officers, he knew the moment was almost here. In the silence of space, just beyond the range of Zealith sensors, the HSS Thunderstorm prepared for action. On the bridge, Admiral Lee looked at the main screen. Status report, he ordered. We are in position, Subin reported. The Zealith flagship is directly ahead. Their sensors are compromised thanks to Lieutenant Park's work. They cannot detect us. Weapon status? Lee asked. At her station, Hana Kim nodded. All weapon systems ready, sir. Targeting locked on their communication arrays and weapon emplacements. Shield status? Shields at full power, sir. Admiral Lee stood up from his chair. This is the moment, people. The Zealith have threatened human worlds for too long. They believe we are weak. Today they learn differently. He paused, looking at each officer on the bridge. Today we show them what humanity is capable of. Lee pressed a button on his chair arm. All hands prepare for combat operations. Rescue team to launch bay. Throughout the ship, men and women moved to their stations. In the launch bay, A small team of soldiers checked their weapons and prepared to board the Zenith flagship to extract Captain Kim and Lieutenant Park. "Disengage stealth systems," Lee ordered. "Let them see us." On the bridge of the thunderstorm, screens showed the Zenith ships floating in space, unaware of the human vessel now revealing itself right in front of their flagship. Back on the Zenith flagship, alarms suddenly began to sound. The hologram of battle plans disappeared, replaced by an emergency display. "Commander Tal," a Zenith officer shouted as he ran into the celebration room. "Something is appearing directly in front of our ship. It's huge." "Impossible," Tal said. "Nothing could approach without our sensors detecting it. See for yourself." The officer pointed to a window that looked out into space. Everyone turned to look. Minister Vex stood up from his throne. Commander Tal pushed through the crowd to get to the window. Outside, where there had been only empty space moments before, a massive ship had appeared. It was black as the void, with smooth lines and no visible weapons. But it was clearly a warship. And it was clearly not Zenith. "What is that?" Vex demanded, his voice no longer confident. "It appears to be a human vessel," Tal said, his voice filled with disbelief. "Human?" Vex almost shouted. "Impossible. Human ships are small and weak." Do-hyun smiled now. He couldn't help it. The look of shock on the Zenith faces was worth all the pain of his capture. "I tried to tell you," Do-hyun said loudly. All eyes turned to him. "Humans are not what you think we are." On the screens around the celebration room, the image of the human battleship appeared. It was at least twice the size of the Zenith flagship. Its black hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "How did it get so close without detection?" Tal demanded of his officers. "Fire all weapons. Ray shields." The officers rushed to obey, but the controls did not respond as they should. Thanks to Ji Young's sabotage, the Zenith systems were slow and confused. Then a new sound filled the room. A human voice speaking through the Zenith communication system. "Attention, Zenith vessel," the voice said. It was Admiral Lee. "This is Admiral Tae Hwan Lee of the Human Space Service battleship Thunderstorm. You have taken one of our officers prisoner. Return Captain Do-hyun Kim immediately or face the consequences." The room went silent. Every Zenith stared at the screens, then at Do-hyun. Minister Vex found his voice first. "This is a trick. One human ship, no matter how large, cannot threaten a Zenith fleet." Commander Tal was not so sure. He looked at Do-hyun with new eyes, seeing not a weak prisoner but a dangerous enemy who had hidden his true strength. "Activate all weapons," Tal ordered again. "Target that ship." "Weapons are responding slowly, Commander," an officer reported. "And our sensors cannot lock on to the human vessel. It's as if it's not fully there." Do-hyun knew what was happening. The Thunderstorm had advanced stealth technology. Even when visible, it was difficult for enemy targeting systems to lock onto it. Admiral Lee's voice came through the speakers again. "We are aware that you are attempting to target our vessel. Be advised that this action is considered hostile." "We will defend ourselves," Minister Vex stood up, his face twisted with rage. "This is one ship. We have a fleet. Destroy it," but before any Zenith ship could fire, the screens showed something new. 5 more human vessels appeared around the Zenith fleet. They had been there all along, hidden by the same stealth technology as the Thunderstorm. The moment Admiral Lee spoke Do-hyun's name, the Zenith understood. The human they had thought was just a helpless prisoner was something else entirely. He was important enough for a battleship commander to know him by name. Important enough for 6 warships to come for him. Do-hyun ducked behind a control panel as the first shots were fired. Zenith guards aimed at him, but their shots went wide. The ship shook violently, throwing many Zenith off their feet. Outside in space, the HSS Thunderstorm had opened fire. But it wasn't firing at the flagship itself. Instead, precise energy beams struck the flagship's weapon emplacements and communication arrays. The human ship was performing surgery, not slaughter. On the Thunderstorm's bridge, Admiral Lee watched the targeting displays. "Disable their weapons first," he ordered. "Then their engines. I want that ship floating dead in space, not destroyed." Hana Kim's fingers moved quickly over her console. "Targeting communications arrays now," she reported. "First wave of weapons successfully disabled." The other human ships were doing the same to the rest of the Zenith fleet. Precise strikes disabled weapons and engines without destroying the vessels. It was a display of skill that the Zealith had never seen before. "Launch rescue team," Lee ordered. In the Thunderstorm's launch bay, a small craft detached from the battleship. It was black like its mothership, fast and stealthy. It headed straight for the Zealith flagship, carrying a team of human soldiers. Back on the flagship, chaos reigned. The celebration room was filled with smoke and the sound of emergency alarms. Zealith officers ran in all directions, trying to reach their battle stations, but with communications damaged, they received conflicting orders. Du-Hyun used the confusion to his advantage. Still holding the guard's weapon, he moved along the wall toward the service door he had identified earlier. He had to find Ji-young and get to an escape point where the rescue team could reach them. Commander Tal was shouting orders, trying to organize a defense. "Get the minister to his ship. Prepare all remaining weapons. Launch fighter craft." But the Zealith systems were not responding properly. Ji-young's sabotage, combined with the Thunderstorm's precision strikes, had thrown the ship into disorder. Du-Hyun spotted Ji-young across the room. She had discarded her servant disguise and now held a Zealith weapon. She saw him and nodded toward the service door. They would meet there. Minister Vex was being hustled toward a different exit by his security team. His face showed fear now, not the arrogance he had displayed earlier. The Zealith leader was seeing his plans crumble before his eyes. As Do-hyun moved toward the service door, Commander Tal spotted him. "The human is escaping," Tal shouted, drawing his own weapon. "Stop him." Do-hyun fired the Zealith weapon at the ceiling. The energy blast hit a light panel which crashed down, blocking Tal's path. Do-hyun used the distraction to reach the service door. Ji-young was already there. "This way, Captain," she said, opening the door. "I've mapped a route to Docking Bay 3. The rescue team will meet us there." Together, they moved into the narrow service corridor. It was used by servants and maintenance workers, not officers or soldiers, so it was empty now. Everyone was rushing to battle stations. "How bad is the damage to their systems?" Do-hyun asked as they ran. "Bad," Ji-young said with a smile. "I've been working on their computers for weeks. Everything is compromised. Their weapons target the wrong places. Their shields protect nothing. Their communications send messages to the wrong receivers." "Good work, Lieutenant," Do-hyun said. "Now we just need to stay alive until the rescue team reaches us." The corridor ended at a junction. Ji-young checked a small device she had hidden in her clothes. It was a human scanner, showing the layout of the ship and the location of Zealith life forms. "Left here," she said. "Then 2 levels down. We need to hurry. They're sealing emergency doors throughout the ship." They turned left and found a maintenance ladder that would take them down 2 levels. As they started to climb down, they heard shouting from behind them. Zealith soldiers had discovered their escape route. "Faster," Do-hyun said. They descended the ladder quickly, reaching the level below just as energy blasts hit the wall where they had been standing. The lower level was dark. Emergency power was failing in this section of the ship. That was good for the humans. Zealith didn't see as well in low light as humans did. "This way," Ji-young whispered, leading the way through the darkness. Docking Bay 3 is just ahead. Outside the ship, the battle continued. The human vessels moved with precision around the Zealith fleet, disabling systems but avoiding destruction. It was a demonstration of power and control that left the Zealith commanders stunned. On the Thunderstorm, Admiral Lee received a report from the rescue team. "Rescue team has docked, sir," Subin reported. "They're entering the Zealith flagship now." "Good," Lee said. "Keep their defense systems busy. I don't want any surprises for our people." The Thunderstorm fired again, targeting the flagship's secondary weapons that were still operational. The beams of energy cut through the Zealith shields as if they weren't there. Inside the flagship, Do-hyun and Ji-young reached a large door marked with Zealith symbols. "Docking Bay 3, Ji-young translated. "But it's sealed." Do-hyun examined the control panel beside the door. It was similar to ones he had seen before on other alien ships. "Can you override it?" Ji-young nodded. She opened the panel and began connecting wires in new patterns. "This will take a minute," she said. Do-hyun took up a position at the corner of the corridor, watching for pursuers. He didn't have to wait long. Shadows moved at the far end of the corridor. Zealith soldiers were coming. "We have company," Do-hyun warned. "How much longer?" "Almost there," Ji-young said, her fingers moving quickly among the wires. "Their security systems are complicated." The first Zealith soldier appeared at the end of the corridor. Do-hyun fired his weapon. The energy blast hit the wall near the soldier, forcing him back into cover. More soldiers appeared. They began firing down the corridor. Do-hyun pressed himself against the wall, returning fire when he could. "Any time now would be good," he called to Ji-young. "Got it," she exclaimed. The door to the docking bay slid open. "Come on." Do-hyun fired one more shot down the corridor, then followed Ji-young through the door. The docking bay was huge, designed for large Zealith shuttles. It was mostly empty now as the shuttles had been launched when the attack began. "Where's the rescue team?" Do-hyun asked, looking around the vast space. Before Ji-young could answer, the door behind them began to open again. The Zealith soldiers had overridden Ji-young's hack. "Take cover!" Do-hyun shouted. They ran behind a stack of cargo containers as energy blasts filled the air where they had been standing. The Zealith soldiers entered the docking bay, spreading out to search for the humans. There were at least 10 of them, led by Commander Tal himself. His face was twisted with rage. "Find them," Tal ordered. "The minister wants them alive if possible, dead if necessary." Do-hyun and Ji-young crouched behind the containers, weapons ready but outnumbered. The situation was getting desperate. "I hope your rescue team hurries up," Do-hyun whispered. Ji-young pointed to the ceiling of the docking bay. "They're not coming through the door," she said with a smile. "They're coming through there." Do-hyun looked up. The ceiling of the docking bay was actually a large door that opened to space, allowing ships to enter and exit. It was closed now, but as he watched, a small red light appeared on the metal surface. Someone was cutting through. The Zealith hadn't noticed yet. They were still searching among the containers, moving closer to where Do-hyun and Ji-young were hiding. "We need to keep them distracted," Do-hyun said. "When our team breaks through, they'll be exposed for a moment." Ji-young nodded. She pointed to a fuel container on the far side of the bay. "That would make a nice distraction." Do-hyun aimed his weapon at the container. "On 3, 1, 2, 3, he fired. The energy blast hit the fuel container, which exploded in a ball of fire. The Zealith soldiers turned toward the explosion, momentarily confused. Above them, the cutting through the ceiling had formed a complete circle. With a crash, the circle of metal fell to the floor. Through the hole came a human ship, small and fast. It was the rescue team's craft. The ship hovered in the docking bay, its weapons targeting the Zealith soldiers. A voice boomed from its speakers. "This is Human Space Service Rescue Team. Drop your weapons or be fired upon." Most of the Zealith soldiers hesitated, looking to Commander Tal for orders. Tal's face showed a mixture of rage and disbelief. He had never imagined that humans could be so bold, so skilled. "Fire," Tal ordered. "Kill them all!" The Zealith opened fire on the human ship, but their shots bounced off its shields. The ship's weapons responded, firing precise shots that disabled the Zealith weapons without killing the soldiers. A hatch opened on the side of the rescue craft. Human soldiers in combat armor jumped out, taking positions around the ship. "Captain Kim, Lieutenant Park," one of them called. "We're here to extract you." Do-hyun and Ji-young broke from their cover, running toward the rescue craft. The human soldiers provided covering fire, keeping the Zealith at bay. Commander Tal saw Do-hyun running for the ship. With a roar of anger, he charged forward, firing his weapon wildly. "You will not escape, human," Tal shouted. Do-hyun turned to face the charging Zealith commander. Do-hyun stood on the deck of the HSS Thunderstorm, taking a deep breath of the clean, familiar air. After days on the Zealith ship, with its strange smells and different atmosphere, the human vessel felt like home. Hana approached him, still maintaining her professional demeanor in front of the crew. But her eyes showed everything she was feeling. "Captain Kim," she said formally. "Welcome back." "Lieutenant Kim," Do-hyun replied, equally formal. "Thank you for the warm welcome." A small smile passed between them. They would have their personal reunion later, in private. For now, there was still work to do. Admiral Lee walked into the docking bay. Everyone stood at attention as he approached. Lee was tall for a Korean, with gray hair and a stern face that rarely showed emotion. But today there was a hint of a smile on his lips. "Captain Kim," Lee said. "Lieutenant Park, well done, both of you. Your mission has given us more than we hoped for. Thank you." "Sir," Do-hyun and Ji-young said together. "Report to medical for examination, then clean up and meet me on the bridge in 30 minutes, Lee ordered. "We have decisions to make about our Zealith friends." As Do-hyun and Ji-young headed to the medical bay, the rescue craft that had brought them back was already being prepared for another mission. More teams were getting ready to board the disabled Zealith ships. "What's happening?" Do-hyun asked a passing officer. "We're sending teams to secure the Zealith vessels," the officer explained, "especially the flagship. Admiral wants Minister Vex brought to the thunderstorm." Do-hyun nodded. Taking the Zealith minister prisoner would give humanity a strong position in any negotiations. In the medical bay, doctors checked Do-hyun and Ji-young for injuries and alien contaminants. Both were given a clean bill of health. Then they were allowed to shower and change into fresh uniforms. Feeling human again, Do-hyun met Hana in a quiet corner of the officers' mess. Now away from the eyes of the crew, they embraced tightly. "I thought I'd lost you," Hana whispered. "Never," Do-hyun replied. "I knew you'd come for me." Hana stepped back, looking at him with a mixture of love and professional pride. "The thunderstorm has never failed a mission," she said. "Especially not one this important." They walked together to the bridge where Admiral Lee was waiting. The bridge of the thunderstorm was a large open space filled with screens and control stations. Through the main viewport they could see the disabled Zealith fleet floating in space. "Captain, Lieutenant," Lee greeted them. "Good timing. Our boarding teams have just secured the Zealith flagship. Minister Vex is being brought here now." "What are your plans for him, sir?" Do-hyun asked. "That depends partly on him," Lee said, "and partly on what you two learned during your time on their ship." Ji-young stepped forward. "Sir, I was able to download a significant amount of data from their systems. The Zealith Empire is larger than we thought, but this fleet represents most of their military strength. They committed everything to this invasion. So we've crippled their ability to wage war." Lee nodded. "Good. There's more, sir," Do-hyun added. "Based on what I observed, the Zealith leadership has been lying to their own people. The common Zealith believe humans are a serious threat, but the leaders, like Minister Vex, have been telling them that we're weak and primitive." "Interesting," Lee said. "That gives us leverage. We can expose their lies." The bridge doors opened and a group of human soldiers entered, escorting Minister Vex. The Zealith leader's fine clothes were now dirty and torn. His proud posture was gone. He looked around the human bridge with a mixture of fear and awe. "Minister Vex," Admiral Lee said, stepping forward. "I am Admiral Tae-hwan Lee of the Human Space Service. Welcome to the HSS Thunderstorm." Vex's yellow eyes narrowed. "You will regret this, human. The Zealith Empire does not forgive. When our main fleet learns of this attack—" "You mean this fleet?" Lee interrupted, pressing a button on his console. A screen showed images of the disabled Zealith ships. "Your invasion force has been neutralized, Minister. And according to our intelligence, this is your main fleet. There is no other." Vex's face showed shock. He had not expected the humans to know this. You cannot know that." "We know many things, Minister," Lee said calmly. "We know that you've been lying to your people about human capabilities. We know that you committed most of your military strength to this invasion, and we know that your position in the Zealith government depends on the success of this mission." The minister's green scales seemed to pale. "What do you want?" "A new understanding between our peoples," Lee said. "One based on truth and mutual respect, not on lies and aggression." Vex looked at Do-hyun, recognition in his eyes. "You, the prisoner. You were never just a prisoner, were you?" "No, Minister," Do-hyun replied. "I was gathering intelligence, just as Lieutenant Park was." He gestured to Ji-young, who smiled coldly at the Zealith leader. "Impossible," Vex muttered. "Humans are not capable of such intelligence. Such planning, such technology?" Ji-young finished for him. "You underestimated us, Minister. That was your first mistake." Admiral Lee gestured to a door at the side of the bridge. "We have prepared a space for negotiations, Minister. You will represent the Zealith Empire. I will represent humanity. Shall we begin?" Vex looked around the bridge at the efficient human crew. at the screen showing his defeated fleet. He had no choice. "Very well, Admiral. Let us negotiate." As Vex was led to the conference room, Lee turned to Do-hyun and Ji-young. "I want both of you in these negotiations. Your insights will be valuable." "Yes, sir," they replied. The negotiations lasted for hours. Minister Vex began by making threats and demands. But as Admiral Lee calmly presented evidence of Zealoth deceptions and details of human military capabilities, the minister's position weakened. "The terms are simple," Lee explained. "The Zealoth Empire will withdraw from the border regions. A demilitarized zone will be established between our territories. Trade will be permitted but under strict regulations, and the Zealoth leadership will acknowledge publicly that humans are not primitive or weak, but equal partners in galactic affairs." "And if we refuse?" Vex asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Lee's face hardened. "Then we release the data Lieutenant Park collected about your military weaknesses to every species in the sector. We provide evidence of your lies to your own people, and we demonstrate exactly what our ships can do when we're not being careful to avoid casualties." The implied threat hung in the air. The human ships had disabled the Zealoth fleet without destroying any vessels or killing many crew members. It had been a demonstration of precision and restraint, but it also showed what the human weapons could do if used to their full capacity. Vex slumped in his seat. "I will present your terms to the High Council," he said finally. "But I cannot guarantee they will be accepted." "You will guarantee it, Minister," Do-hyun said quietly. "Because the alternative is the end of the Zealoth Empire as you know it." After the negotiations, Vex was returned to his flagship, which had been partially repaired to allow basic life support and propulsion. The Zealoth fleet would be allowed to return home, but without weapons and under human escort. On the bridge of the thunderstorm, Admiral Lee addressed his officers. "This is a significant day for humanity," he said. "We have shown the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated. But with that demonstration comes responsibility. We must use our strength wisely, not to conquer but to maintain peace." Do-hyun, standing beside Hana, nodded in agreement. The Zealoth had thought humans were weak because they valued peace and cooperation, but today had proven that peace was not the same as weakness. In the following weeks, the Zealoth High Council accepted the human terms. Minister Vex was removed from his position, replaced by a younger Zealoth who understood the new reality. The border regions became a zone of cautious trade rather than military tension. 1 month after the battle, Do-hyun and Hana stood at a viewport on the thunderstorm, looking out at the stars. The ship was patrolling the new border, ensuring the Zealoth honored their agreement. "Do you think they've really learned their lesson?" Hana asked. Do-hyun thought about Commander Tal's face when the thunderstorm had first appeared. The shock, the disbelief, and finally the understanding. "I think so," he said. The Zealoth believed they were the strongest species in the sector. Now they know differently. That kind of lesson isn't easily forgotten. "And what about the other species watching?" Hana asked. "What lesson did they learn?" Do-hyun smiled. "That humans may look soft and emotional. We may value peace and cooperation. But when threatened, when pushed too far, we are not to be trifled with." On the main bridge, Admiral Lee received a communication from Earth Command. The report on the Zealoth incident had been reviewed at the highest levels. The actions of the thunderstorm and its crew had been approved. More importantly, the new relationship with the Zealoth was seen as a model for future first contacts, sir. Subin reported from her communications station. "We're receiving a transmission from the Zealoth border station. They're requesting permission to establish regular communication protocols as specified in the treaty." Lee nodded. "Grant permission, Ensign, and log it as the first official communication under the new agreement." "Yes, sir," Subin said with a smile. They addressed the message to the respected representatives of humanity. Quite a change from primitive creatures, isn't it?